and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going through the different types of media that I have consumed over April and May. I was originally going to make two separate videos, but the April video only would have been one book and two TV series, so I thought I might as well just combine the April and May video and make it one, so that way there is more content. So without further ado, let's get into the video. The first book that I read in April was Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. If you haven't read Rule of Wolves or the first book, King of Scars, we follow the young king Nikolai as he battles an inner demon who is actually very familiar to us for those who have read the Shadow and Bone trilogy. And we also follow his general Zoya Nazialensky as she goes through her journey of really becoming a Grisha and really harnessing her inner power and her inner strength in order to use it for good. And thirdly, we follow Nina Zenik as she is on an undercover mission for Nikolai's kingdom, Ravka. I thought this was a great and epic conclusion to the Grishaverse books. Well, at least I thought it was the conclusion, but after reading the ending to this, I'm not quite as sure. But I love these books so much, so if there are going to be more and if they're going to be coming out sooner rather than later, I'm very excited and I'm very happy about that. I found that even though this is actually the 7th book in the Grishaverse series, it was still very unique and it still had its own story that wasn't redundant or seemed to be too much alike to the other books of Leigh's. I really enjoyed how much more detail was put into these books and how much more world building we get and the descriptions and the epic battles. It was very enjoyable all around. Like I said, if this isn't the conclusion to the Grishaverse books, I am very happy and I'm very excited for the next ones because these books will always be near and dear to my heart and they will always be some of my favorites. Out of 5 stars, I went ahead and I gave Rule of Wolves 4.5. The first TV show that I watched in April was The Irregulars, which is on Netflix. This show was so good. It honestly blew my mind away. It's basically Supernatural meets Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock Holmes for those of you who have seen either of those or both of them. But it's actually about a group of teenagers who are helping Sherlock's partner Watson while they investigate a bunch of supernatural happenings throughout London. There's a magical aspect in there which is done very well, and I really enjoyed seeing it and watching the depictions of the good magic versus the sort of bad and twisted magic that goes on in the show. I also loved the main group of characters and I loved them despite their flaws and despite their faults. There are also 2 couples within the group who I ship both equally and I love them both so much. They're so cute and I really hope that this series isn't over and that there will be a season 2. However, I think that the first season left off on a good note in case they don't get renewed. The second book that I read was Jaws, and I read this at the beginning of May. I don't know many people out there who don't know about Jaws, but it's about an enormous great white shark who is terrorizing a coastal town of Amity Island, and it kills a bunch of people, and it's about the main character who's a police chief there who wants to get rid of the shark while also keeping the people of the town safe. While I was reading this book, I have seen the movie before the book actually, so reading it, it was a lot different than the movie actually, and it's actually so different that in the movie one of the characters dies towards the end, one of the main characters, and it's actually not the main character who dies in the book, so I was really shocked when I read that. I still enjoyed it though. However, I will say that I wasn't the biggest fan of Peter's writing because it was kind of old school and there were a few derogatory statements in there and I didn't really like the slang that was used towards certain individuals, but I understand that it was written in a time where that was acceptable, so I just kind of skipped over it in my head and I just read the book without even addressing those in my mind. I will say that I don't actually even know how the book ended. It was very unclear to me. I think that they killed the shark in the end. I don't know if the people trying to kill the shark died in the end. I don't even really know if the shark died. I don't really know what happened exactly, but I think that they killed the shark and I think maybe one of them survived, so we're just gonna go with that. I definitely found the beginning to be much more thrilling than the middle and the end, which kind of stinks, but I'll take it. And I went ahead and I gave Jaws 3 stars. The next TV show that I watched in April was the highly anticipated anticipated Shadow and Bone on Netflix. If you haven't heard me talk about this in a bunch of videos, I don't know where you've been, but I will link them down below. I have 2 trailer reactions and I have a whole discussion about the show. If you've seen it or if you would like to see it and you want to go ahead and watch those, please feel free. I will link some of them up above as well. But basically, I loved the show. I thought it was such a great book-to-screen adaptation, if not one of the best that I've seen. There were some things that didn't translate as well from the books on screen, or that the creators tried to change to better appeal to people who haven't read the books that didn't really end up turning out as well as I believe they wanted to. But despite that, I was very satisfied as a Grishaverse super fan, so I enjoyed it very much. I highly recommend you go and watch it if you enjoy high fantasy television / books / stories. And I went ahead and I gave Shadow and Bone 4 out of 5 stars. The most recent book that I read at the end of May was Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. This book is a multiple point of view story based in a fictional world, which is much like Middle-earth from Lord of the Rings for those of you who have read those books or seen those movies. In this book, we mostly follow a girl named Corvain, who is the daughter of a pirate captain, and she actually comes from a line of immortal, powerful beings in this world, and she is the last hope to save their realm when portals into time and space are ripped open and evil creatures start pouring out to overrun her realm. The book was rather slow. It's a lot more of world building and character building instead of actual plot. I personally enjoyed it, but I can see how some people would get rather bored with it and not enjoy it as much. I will say that my favorite part of the book was the tail end of it, when the action really started picking up and we get to see a huge battle and we get to see our main character become the heroine she's meant to be. I also really enjoyed how different this book was from Victoria Aveyard's first series, which was Red Queen. I highly recommend that series. It's very good, and if you want to check it out, I'll link the books down below. But this was completely different, and I loved how it was marketed as Lord of the Rings meets Guardians of the Galaxy, and what would happen in a world if the first line of heroes meant to save the realm failed, so the second string had to be sent in. I did enjoy the multiple point of view. However, there was one, which was Rita's, which I thought was unnecessary and could have been taken out because it kind of took away from the main storyline and the other main characters, and it just kind of threw me off when I got to her points of view, and I just kind of wanted to skip over them. One thing I could not stand was how many times Victoria Aveyard wrote about the main character's eyes and how black they were. The amount of times I had to read a sentence talking about how dark and how black her eyes looked just drove me crazy. I got it the first time. Her eyes are uniquely black. Okay, moving on. The ending left me satisfied. However, I do wish that more happened throughout the majority of the book, and I do wish we had seen our main character learn to wield the spindle blade which she comes into possession of and learn to actually use it. But I'm sure that will be coming in the next book, which I am very excited for. So out of 5 stars, I gave Realmbreaker 4. The third show that I watched was The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is on Disney+. And if I'm being completely honest, it was a real letdown to me after watching WandaVision. I enjoyed how it addressed certain topics that unfortunately are still relevant today and are still an issue today, and will unfortunately continue to be an issue until things are addressed and things are made better. However, I thought overall the story was lacking. I thought the script was not that good. The lines often fell flat. Certain scene sequences didn't seem to flow as well together, and I honestly only really enjoyed the action sequences that were throughout the series, as well as the back and forth banter between Sam and Bucky's characters and sometimes Zemo. But overall, I thought it was mediocre and I didn't really like it that much. I really hope that the Loki show, which I'm really looking forward to, and the Black Widow movie, which I'm also very looking forward to, are better and they kind of bring me out of this Marvel slump that I'm now in because I didn't enjoy this show very much. If there is another season, I just ask that the writers step it up a little bit and that the creators kind of come up with a plot idea that is different from what we have seen already in Marvel, but also still in line with the stories we've seen so far. I will say I love Bucky and I love Sam, and like I said, I love their back and forth, and I really enjoyed Zemo in this series, but I do hope that this is the last we'll see of him. Out of 5 stars, I gave The Falcon and the Winter Soldier 3. Alright, the last TV show that I watched in May was Peaky Blinders season 3, and unfortunately, this was my least favorite season so far. I didn't really enjoy the plot or the Russian involvement and characters that were introduced, but I will say that I definitely did not see the ending of the season coming, and it really took me off guard, and it made me want to continue watching. So good for them in that regard for getting me to season 4, because honestly, this season was probably the hardest for me to get through, and I can see how it would have been where some people might have dropped off from watching the show. I didn't really like some of the decisions that our main character Tommy Shelby and his older brother Arthur Shelby were making throughout this season. They really just seemed to be steps backwards from their character development rather than furthering them as characters and expanding the viewer's scope of them and their personalities. Other characters, I felt they were developed further, so that kind of balanced out things. I'm about halfway through season 4, and so far it might be my favorite season. It's really picked up. So if you're on season 1 or season 2 or season 3, I just recommend that you keep pushing and keep plugging along through season 3 and into season 4. So for Peaky Blinders season 3, I gave it 3 stars. Alright everybody, that's all I have for today. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel to help it grow, and let me know down below whether you have read any of these books or seen any of these TV series, and whether you agree or disagree with my thoughts and feelings on them and why. And aside from that, I will see you next time.